right, so I was looking at TikTok and came across this video of this young lady talking about how we don't need any more slave movies. Hollywood needs to stop making slave movies. And I couldn't agree more. I thought I was the only person that felt this way. Like, I just feel like there's like an obsession in Hollywood to keep reminding Black Americans that this is where we come from, when the reality is that is not where our story begins. And that's my beef that I have with the African American Museum, the Smithsonian Museum in DC. Like, I love the museum. I've been a few times. I took my daughter, but I just feel like they start at slavery. Like, that is not where the Black American story begins, not for everyone. And even though there is historical proof that there were Black folks in America before Columbus got here, I just really despise how they try to just minimize who we are to the story of slavery. And then there's also, there's also historical evidence that not all Black Americans were enslaved. If you do your genealogy, some of us will find out that not all of our ancestors were enslaved. And then even when I was looking up, some of the historical documents around slavery, there were folks who were only enslaved for X amount of years, and then they were emancipated, like consistently on it, like 5 years emancipated, fourth year freedom, we're given freedom. So that storyline that every Black person in America was enslaved, it's not always factual, but it did exist. And I just think that Hollywood needs to retire these slave movies. Can we get an uplifting story? Like, if you want to tell us the history of Black America, let's highlight some of our historical figures that, are responsible for some of the inventions we use today. Let's talk about that. Let's make movies around that. I think we have seen enough of the slave movies. And I blame Amistad, and I blame that other one, Roots. Okay, I think we've had enough. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is enough. We don't need any more. I don't want to see any more.
Movies about slavery aren't truly accurate depictions of what Black people went through during that time. Sure, they show us getting whipped in the cotton fields, but that's literally it. They never show us you guys ripping out our hair for furniture. They never show you guys ripping out our teeth for dentures. They never show you throwing our babies into rivers for alligators. They never show you just straight up eating us. At the end of the day, those kind of movies just watered down the topic of slavery for white people to make it seem like all you did was whip us and call us names. Like, no, y'all were literally evil.
I will never watch this movie. I will never watch this movie.
Why is it when Hollywood wants to give stories about Black history and wants to make movies about Black history, they go back to whips, chains, and plantations? And then why again do they also tell us to keep quiet and stop talking about slavery too much when they constantly remind us about slavery through their movies and how they romanticize slavery? And why is it that we are constantly being reminded of the pain, the agony, and the things that our forefathers had to go through? Stop making profits from Black people's trauma. Stop making profits from Black people's stories. Most of these movies are not even directed by Black people. They are directed by other people from different cultures, like white people and Italians and all these other people. And it's silly to see that, because why would you tell a story of someone else when you're not of their culture? You do not know what those people went through, and whatever you are actually going to say in whatever you're doing is a way that you vision that particular thing, not how it actually was. It is about how you were taught and how you were told about the history, not actually about the actual people who went through those things. Remember it. So today we're going to be talking about this very serious topic. I hope you've come ready to learn, ready to listen, and let's petition for this continuous repetition of Black pain and torture, and let's become exhausted, and let's petition for this to end, because white people cannot continuously be earning from our pain. That's not right. So let's dive into this video. I hope you're ready to learn. I am too, and then we'll come back and talk about it. See you shortly.
Hey y'all, while I do appreciate its historical context and the educational purposes, can y'all please stop making slave movies? I'm tired of being whipped. I've seen enough slave movies in my 32 years, okay? I don't need to see no more. Can we talk about technological advancements? Can we talk about successful athletes. Let's make more movies about that. Matter of fact, I'll do you one better for Black History Month. How about you increase minimum wage? How about you decrease some of these rent prices? How about you forgive student loan debt? Can we start there? Let's do that for Black History Month. Because see, our history did not start with slavery. All right? And it surely did not end with slavery. Okay? Black people, we exist far outside the realm of slavery. Okay? I don't want to see no more slave movies. I'm tired.
I have a question. How come white people are going to go on and on about how Black people need to move on from slavery? It was 400 years ago. It's in the past. Move on. Then how come the only movies y'all want to make about Black people is about slaves? And y'all love to watch the torture porn. You love to see your faves in a movie doing hard R this, hard R that, beating and doing all this shit to Black people. Y'all love it. You're obsessed with it. You're fixated on it. All you want to do is watch these movies, watching Black people get tortured. If we talk about it, not okay. But when y'all want to watch a snuff film with your favorite actor doing a hard R, gets Oscars. It's serving secret hard R racist. And I see you.
Unpopular opinion, I don't think that there should ever be another slave movie made ever again. I think we've got the gist. I think we've created all the media that we could possibly create surrounding slavery and slave movies. I think if you're not talking about a specific person that we have not had a movie about or that we don't know anything about, I don't want to see a fucking slave movie. And I especially don't want to see a made up story. Like, this is a slave movie with a fictitious background and these are fictitious characters. I don't want to see that shit.
White women, if there is a book that is going around on Book Talk and others are saying, hey, this book is weird because there is an enslavement element to it, whether it's 5% of the book, 2% of the book, 1% of the book, 50, 90, whatever percent of the book, and it is between a slave owner and his slave, whether he is saving her or not, and it's a woman of color. I'm going to tell you this right now, white women, if you hear that and you hear from other white women or POCs being like, it's crazy that in 2025 romances are being written about slavery and people are gravitating towards it, don't come on here and say, well, actually, read the rest of the book. It changes, blah, 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 defending it. That's an insane take. Or saying things like, oh, but you should have read the trigger warnings. No one's talking about the trigger warnings. Not a single person is talking about the trigger warnings. Anyone and everyone is talking about the fact that in 2025, we are having books about enslavement and trying to romanticize it. I'm not talking BDSM. I'm not talking about, kinks, because that's not what this is, right? I'm talking about taking things like slavery, pedophilia, just really weird, gross shit, and trying to romanticize it and call it dark romance. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. You know what? Do whatever you want when it comes to the male main character doing things to whatever, her doing things to whatever. But when there is a real problematic thing like slavery being romanticized or pedophilia, y'all remember what was that book, Daddy's Bricks or something? That one? Little Toys. Daddy's Little Toys. Thank you. My husband's over here. That one. It's insane to me that people are like, well, if you read the trigger warnings, you would see that and you would be able to go into that. And I have no triggers, so it's fine. And you just have to read that's crazy. That's crazy work. Insane. Some things don't need to be romanticized. Some things do not need to be romanticized. And I'm saying that, you know what? I'm even going to take out the white women part. All readers. Not everything needs to be romanticized, but particularly you white women that are doing this and in the publishing industry and in the writing industry and saying, I'm going to write a book about this, this, and this, and it's not going to be seen as problematic because I'm labeling it as dark romance.
One of my mutuals made a great point when it comes to people talking about the Holocaust versus slavery. When people bring up the Holocaust, they understand how bad it was. In every single minute detail, if you ask someone how bad was the Holocaust, they'll be able to say in every detail what exactly happened to Jewish people. Justifiably so. But when it comes to slavery, I feel like you guys just don't do it a justice. They used to eat us, bro. They used to eat us. They used to use our skin as furniture. They used to use our hair as insulation for their clothes. They used to castrate us in streets for public display in front of their children. They used to essay black men as a form of intimidation to other black men. Look up what buck breaking is. I'm telling you right now, them books in high school that you used to read about slavery do not do it justice. These people were such sick animals to us. It's so crazy how people just gloss over like, oh yeah, slavery happened. What? I really need y'all to see the severity of how bad slavery was. The same way y'all do the Holocaust.
What's something that people glamorize that's actually just extremely toxic?
Slavery. Slavery is mostly glamorized in our history books. 2010 Texas U.S. history textbooks, say that 5 times, stated that some slaves reported that their masters treated them kindly. To protect their investment, some slaveholders provided adequate food and clothing for their slaves. I completely gloss over the fact that our ancestors were beaten, raped, fed to animals, skinned alive, hung from trees over the most asinine things ever. And then people will either argue, well, slavery happened all over the world. That doesn't make it any better. Or they'll say, well, slavery was a thing in the past, so who cares anymore? Well, it's not. Slavery is still legal to this day as long as you're being incarcerated, which is still toxic in itself. If you are a teacher, especially a history teacher, please do not try to glamorize slavery to make it more comfortable for your students to hear.
Constantly showing the pain and suffering of the black people creates this trauma that doesn't even come with healing. The white people don't even offer healing to us after they have benefited from the movies, because obviously they are commodifying it. It's a way of them to earn money, way of them to continue getting money from black people's pain. And even the kids, small kids who are now growing up and seeing this movie, they don't know about anything else apart from slavery. Black people had history before slavery. We are more than slavery. There was life before slavery and there is life after slavery. Why can't we talk about the benefits and the things that black people have come to add to the society? Black people have come to make very big scientific discoveries and even other fields. They have come to do amazing things, even with all the pain that they have had to live with. They have come to do such great things. Why are we still bringing black people down? Why are we still talking about slavery when you're not even giving back to the people who you hurt? You're literally making profit from these people's pain, and you're not even going to match with them when they say that they want reparations. You say that you don't want black people to continuously talk about slavery when you constantly remind black people about slavery. And then, to make it even worse, you butcher it and you make it comfortable for white people to be able to watch. Because anyway, at the end of the day, you want white people and black people to watch so that you can get money. You're going beyond the actual story. You're glossing over what actually happened. Because there was so much pain, there was so much torture, and there is more to life than that. Black people have come to become amazing people. They have done huge discoveries. We use so many things that black men and women have done. They are, for God's sakes, like we've even had a black president. Let's talk about that. Let's make movies and series about that. Let's write books about that. Let's stop writing books and movies and making movies, especially by non-black people, making these things when they don't actually know how it felt, and saying that there were actually good slave owners, there were actually good white people who gave food, adequate hospitality to the slaves. What? For non-black audiences, especially the whites specifically, it can normalize slavery. The slavery is now normalized because when black people actually are passionate about the pain that they went through and try and explain what they actually went through, it's difficult for even white people to understand what we're talking about and the pain that we still have in our hearts about what happened. Because they can't understand, because the things that they have been told by their ancestors and their forefathers and the movies that are being shown on their screens are showing that they were actually good slave owners. So they don't understand why we are always complaining, why we are always fighting for better treatment, why we are always demanding that slavery should have been stopped a long time ago. They believe that it was actually a very good time for us to just sit and work on the cotton fields and then come back and eat and sleep and then wake up the next day. They don't actually tell us about how they were feeding babies to crocodiles, how they were feeding grown men to dogs while they were alive. Like, they're alive and they're being fed to dogs. They can literally feel that pain. They were being done all kinds of bad things. Stop profiting from Black people's trauma. Stop making movies about Black people's pain. Stop romanticizing slavery. Stop talking over Black people's history and you're not a Black person. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Yes. Well, I hope you've learned something today and you have been impacted in one way or another. I hope that we may continue to fight for ourselves as Black people, because white people are not going to rest until we get what we want, until we get what we deserve. And I hope that you may consider subscribing and sharing and commenting. I'd like to hear what you have to say. I want to interact with you in the comment section below. I'd like to hear about your thoughts on this topic. Do you prefer that they continue to make movies about slavery, or do you believe that it should be stopped? I'd like to hear what you have to say, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.